lethal force, and instead accused the Department of Justice of authorizing the use of deadly force during the Mar-a-Lago search. Or as Trump put it in a fundraising email to his supporters, quote, President Biden was locked and loaded, ready to take me out. Now, that is precisely the kind of rhetoric and distortion that Donald J. Trump is known for, and it's also precisely why Jack Smith believes that Trump has earned himself a grade A USDA choice beef top shelf gag order, an argument that he laid out in a withering filing ahead of today's hearing. Quote, in late May 2024, Donald Trump made a series of false and inflammatory public statements about the law enforcement professionals who conducted the court-authorized search at Mar-a-Lago, telling his audience that the FBI was out to kill him and his family. The quote goes on. Trump knew that this was false, and he intended that his comments would inflame his listeners. Indeed, that was the whole purpose. There is no question that his statements were intentionally false, that they were designed to inflame and anger his audience, and that he knew that his statements would do so. Every court to have examined the issue has recognized the threat caused by the longstanding and well-documented dynamic between Trump's comments and the predictable response from some of his supporters. Quote continues, here, common human experience leaves no question of the imminently foreseeable harm posed by Trump's knowingly false and inflammatory accusation of an FBI plot to murder him and his family. Three of those words bear repeating. Imminently foreseeable harm. That was posed by Trump's knowingly false and inflammatory accusations. And that is where we start this hour with former top official at the Department of Justice and MSNBC legal analyst Andrew Weissmann, plus U.S. Senator and co-host of MSNBC's How to Win 2024 podcast. Man, it's awesome. Claire McCaskill and former Republican Congressman and MSNBC political analyst David Jolly. MSNBC's Katie Fang is inside that Florida courthouse, and we hope to have her join us as soon as she's able. Andrew Weissmann, I start with you, as I always do. It's a matter of common courtesy and deference to your genius. What's going on down there in Florida today?
Well, one of the things people should know is that the way that Judge Cannon runs her courtroom, in contrast to the Judge Merchan courtroom, is that there are no laptops, there's no telephones, nothing that you can use to communicate. So that's why it's slower than when we had the ability to get immediate tweets and information from Judge Merchan's courtroom from the insiders who were there. So we know that both on Friday and this morning, she heard an issue about the constitutionality of the appointment of the special counsel. That's an issue that has been decided by every court that has addressed it against the people challenging the appointments of special counsels, whether Republicans or Democrats. And then this afternoon is the very, very belated oral argument that the judge scheduled on, John, what you affirmed as the changing of the bail conditions to impose additional restrictions on what the former president can say. And that's when also, when you think about that, how that's been addressed in D.C. and in New York, we have had a situation where the former president has needed to be under a gag order because of these, as you put it, his false statements that pose imminent harm to people either who are witnesses, jurors, court staff, or prosecution staff. So we'll see what Judge Cannon does. One thing I am keeping my eye out for is if she does not rule for the government here, I can easily see them taking this up to the Court of Appeals to get it reversed for a third time.
Andrew, I follow you relentlessly and religiously on Twitter, and I saw a tweet of yours that talked about the state of affairs at Aileen Cannon's courtroom. You compared it to Judge Merchan's. Judge Merchan, you thought ran a really tight ship, right? Right? Well done.
Absolutely.
Right.
First-rate judge.
First-rate judge who ran a first-rate courtroom. Aileen Cannon, not so much. Here's the tweet. A tweet where you likened Cannon's courtroom to being so backed up. In this case, it's like planes over LaGuardia on a holiday. I will say it's a very New York thing that shows your New York roots. I would, for people in the Midwest would say it backed up like planes over O'Hare, but, it's a similar idea. I ask you the question I ask you all the time about Eileen Cannon as you talk about her. It's the inescapable question. Politically biased, bozo, or both?
Boy, it's this like that game show where it's, do you want behind the curtain or within the box? So I actually think it's both. There's no question she is inexperienced, and she does not have the tools to handle a case that's this complicated. That's clear. There's, everyone's seen that. We also do have the fact that the 11th Circuit, a conservative circuit that she is in, reversed her not once but twice. And those were conservative judges who just thought she was absolutely bonkers in terms of her rulings. And of course, both times that she was overturned, her rulings were for Trump. It's not like she's inexperienced and sometimes she gets it right for Trump and sometimes she gets it right or wrong for the government. They're always siding with Donald Trump, and it's very, very hard at this point to see her as being anything other than partisan. Let me just give you one reason that I and other people are particularly perturbed about the timing of her scheduling this argument on the gag order. The government raised this issue almost a month ago with her saying that there's a real concern about danger to law enforcement from these false statements. And she initially rejected the filing. She said it needs to be refiled because you conferred with the other side, which is required, but I don't think you conferred enough. So she actually bounced the filing and said, you need to confer enough. That was sort of meaningless because, of course, the other side didn't agree to it. They never were going to agree to it. They said they didn't agree to it. And so that delayed it. And then she put it on this very slow trajectory where we finally are today having this heard. Can you imagine? The allegations are that law enforcement is being harmed here. There's a grave risk of harm. Even if she thought ultimately she was going to rule against the government, you would want to hear that as soon as humanly possible. It just shows such incredible cavalier attitudes about safety, and that cavalier attitude about safety is what got her reversed twice in the 11th Circuit, where they said she was showing really cavalier attitudes towards the national security of the United States. So again, I think it's worth really keeping an eye on this, because if she does not rule for the government, this is one where it easily could go up on appeal.
Claire, Andrew is perturbed, particularly perturbed. Out in the show me state, do people get perturbed, or do you guys have a different word for that?
Well, gobsmacked. I think the lawyers that are watching this, and particularly the other federal judges that are watching this, are all like, what in the world? This woman has a serious case of robitis, and robitis is a disease that inflicts a federal judge. Once they get the lifetime appointment, they forget that they are accountable to anyone, and even not accountable to the people who appear in front of them, the lawyers who appear in front of them. Let me give you an example how nuts this is. People file a friend of the court brief many times on various issues. Typically, they are only looked at and potentially maybe argued at the appellate level. This woman, on an issue that has been litigated over and over again about the constitutionality of a special counsel, she's letting people who filed briefs come in and argue in front of her like she's a Supreme Court judge or something. It's just beyond weird. No question, it looks like she's in the tank. It may turn out that she's not, but the appearance of impropriety here, not just with her timing, her failure to act, but the rulings she's made. And as Andrew says, when you get reversed twice by a really conservative appellate court, you start paying attention, because no judge likes being reversed, even one who doesn't know what she's doing.
David Jolly, I come to you as I believe the sole Floridian, or at least Florida resident on this panel, and I won't make you try to defend all the things that are going on in your state, including in this courtroom, but I will read to you from the Wall Street Journal and ask you what you think about this. 3 days of hearing palooza. Here's a quote that I found quite gobsmacking, I believe was Claire's word. I'm with that. Quote, at a hearing on Friday, Eileen Cannon, Judge Cannon, took the unusual step of allowing a Texas law professor and 2 other lawyers unaffiliated with the case, to argue on whether the special counsel behind the prosecution, Jack Smith, was unlawfully appointed. She cut off the law professor, Josh Blackman, as he quoted a line from the Spider-Man comics and later nudged him to finish his argument. I do want to let you wrap up, she said. So she basically is kind of letting these clowns into the courtroom and then being shocked that they're wearing, that they have bozo noses and bright wigs. What say you about the state of things in this courtroom in your state?
I think the greatest gift for Eileen Cannon is there's no cameras in the courtroom, because it is clear, as Andrew and Claire have said, it's clear to a layperson she's unqualified, at least for this case. Maybe her credentials prepared her for the bench, but she's very new to the bench, and she is absolutely unqualified for this case. And so how does she cover that? What it seems she's doing is saying, well, then I'm going to be exceedingly thorough. I'm going to take my time. I'm going to listen to everybody. Also, perhaps politically knowing that that favors Donald Trump's fortunes if in the end he indeed is elected president. I think that, the lightning bolt last week that came out says everything, that the senior judge, the chief judge, suggested that she recuse herself and let a more experienced judge take the case, and yet she went ahead and did it. I think another glaring sign is in the Jack Smith filing you just read from, where it talks about the imminency of threat. The crux of his case, his argument, actually relies not on law, but he says common human experience tells us that Donald Trump's rhetoric is violent and would incite violence. That's basically saying, Judge Eileen Cannon, don't overthink this or over-lawyer or over-judge this. Common sense would tell you this. And maybe if Eileen Cannon is paying the least bit of attention to anything outside of her courtroom, she might realize that the common sense of America is looking at her saying, what are you doing? Because it is obvious that you're unprepared for this moment.
Andrew, Ty Cobb, the lawyer, not the baseball player, who worked for Donald Trump for a period of time and now criticizes him frequently and has the most excellent mustache known to man, was on television the other day making an argument that I'd like you to hear and react to. So let's play that.
The worst thing that could happen to her is that she actually does rule for Trump on this, because that would go to the 11th Circuit. And then I think this, petty partisan prima donna would be put in her place and they would remove her.
Andrew, he's gone full Santa Claus. He's not just the mustache, but the beard on Ty Cobb now. What do you make of that argument, the notion that in the way that Cannon has been bending over backwards to favor Trump, it could end up backfiring on her?
I totally agree. Ty Cobb's an excellent lawyer. Leave aside the way he dresses and his alliteration. I mean, his point here is absolutely right. This is an issue that is serious. You go into law enforcement, you are at the Department of Justice to take seriously threats to civilians, threats to law enforcement. If Judge Cannon knew what she was doing, she would really put it to the Trump team to say, isn't it a fact that what you said is false? And make them really defend on the issue of isn't there sort of a knowing and imminent harm here? If she rules for Trump, it is the kind of issue. The reason you are in law enforcement is to protect people. The idea that this would not be taken up to the 11th Circuit seems really remote to me. I sort of put myself in, what would I do in that situation? You would do everything you can to protect people in law enforcement the way that you try to protect witnesses and jurors and court staff. And this is the kind of thing that it doesn't take a conservative or a liberal judge. It's sort of should be a bipartisan issue on the 11th Circuit, that this is the kind of thing that will really show her incompetence, both in terms of the substance for ruling and, as I mentioned, the timing of it, that she waited so long to hear this matter.
Andrew Weissman, I detected a certain kind of disapproval for Ty Cobb's facial hair. I want to be really clear. I was celebrating it, not criticizing it. You may have a problem with it, but I do not. Thank you for spending this time with us. The Florida hearing is still ongoing. When we get any kind of readout on what's happening inside from Katie Fang, we will bring that to you. In the meantime, when we come back, the marquee political event of the 2024 presidential cycle, at least to this point, is just days away. a more than likely one-night-only spectacle, given that one candidate has an incredible penchant, reliable penchant for breaking the rules. It's a debate with huge implications for both candidates on the stage. No audience, new rules. We'll look at how this matchup this time around will be different from what you remember in 2020, and God help us, it's got to be better than that. Later in the show, it's been 2 years since the United States Supreme Court's decision to overturn the right to an abortion in this country. It was an earthquake, the decision, perhaps the most politically consequential decision of our lifetime, and the aftershocks are still being felt today. How Democrats and the Biden White House plan to make women's issues and the courts a reason to show up in November. All of those stories and more when Deadline White House continues after this. So please, please, even though it's me here, not Nicolle, don't go anywhere.
Type 2 diabetes?
Discover the Ozempic Trizone. Ozempic. I got the power of 3. I lowered my A1C, CV risk, and lost some weight.
In studies, the majority of people reached an A1C under 7 and maintained it.
I'm under 7.
Ozempic lowers the risk of major cardiovascular events such as stroke, heart attack, or death in adults also with known heart disease.
I'm lowering my risk.
Adults lost up to 14 pounds.
I lost some weight.
Ozempic isn't for people with type 1 diabetes. Don't share needles or pens or reuse needles. Don't take Ozempic if you or your family ever had medullary thyroid cancer or have multiple endocrine neoplasia syndrome type 2 or if allergic to it. Stop Ozempic and get medical help right away if you get a lump or swelling in your neck, severe stomach pain, or an allergic reaction. Serious side effects may include pancreatitis. Gallbladder problems may occur. Tell your provider about vision problems or changes. Taking Ozempic with a sulfonylurea or insulin may increase low blood sugar risk. Side effects like nausea, vomiting, and diarrhea may lead to dehydration, which may worsen kidney problems. Living with type 2 diabetes?
Ask about the power of 3 with Ozempic.
Every time I needed a new phone, I had to switch carriers.
I told him. At Verizon, everyone can get that iPhone 15 on them.
Now that I got a huge storage and battery upgrade, I'm officially done switching.
New and existing customers get iPhone 15 on us when they trade in any iPhone. Verizon.
Compared with other chews, one Brevecto chew protects from fleas and ticks for 12 weeks, nearly 3 times longer.
Use with caution in dogs with a history of seizures or neurological disorders. Protection that lasts longer? Bravo, Brevecto. Bravo.
At Care.com, you can quickly find local, background-checked sitters, read reviews, see their experience, and get your questions answered.
Hi, this is Jess, our new sitter.
Find a sitter today, Care.com.
I have a structured settlement, and I call J.G. Wentworth, 877 cash now.
I have an annuity, but I need cash now.
Call J.G. Wentworth, 877 cash now.
It's your money. Use it when you need it.
Call J.G. Wentworth, 877 cash now.
Kids love summer break, but parents, well, Care.com makes it easy to find background-checked childcare that fits your summer schedule, from long-term to short notice. Give yourself a break this summer. Go to Care.com now.
Liberty Mutual customized my car insurance, and I saved hundreds. With all the money I saved, I thought I'd buy stilts. Being so tall definitely has its advantages.
Oh, wow.
Here you go, kiddo.
Thanks. Hi, honey. Ready to go?
Yep. There it is. There it is. There we go. I guess it also has some disadvantages.
Yes, it does.
Only pay for what you need.
Liberty, 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 liberty.
Saturday, September 7th, Brooklyn, New York. It's MSNBC Live Democracy 2024, our premier live audience event. Maddow, Psaki, Reed, Hayes, Kornacki, and more. Visit msnbc.com/democracy2024 to buy your tickets.
We are now just days away from what, to this point in the presidential campaign, is the most highly anticipated event of the 2024 cycle. President Joe Biden and former President Donald Trump set to face off in the first and earliest ever presidential debate on Thursday in Atlanta at CNN. The two are taking really wildly different approaches to their preparations, but not surprisingly different. President Biden spending the days leading up to the matchup in Atlanta at Camp David with all of his senior aides rehearsing, reportedly, including his attorney, Bob Bauer, playing the part again of Donald Trump. He did that back in 2020. And according to reporting in the New York Times today, quote, Biden aides view the debate as the starting bell for the general election, an event that will provide a high-profile opportunity to define the terrain of the contest. Meanwhile, the disgraced, now 34-time criminally convicted ex-president, also twice impeached, by the way, is not taking part in any known formal debate practice, preparations, mock debates, none of that. Instead, Trump has chosen to hit the campaign trail, where he's been making a number of, like those Trump statements, unhinged out there, hard to follow. But as Biden campaign co-chair Mitch Landrieu reminded all of us, there is some other preparation that Trump needed to do before taking the stage on Thursday.
The fact of the matter is that the sky is blue sometimes, and Donald Trump is a convicted felon. And the American people have to sit in that for a second. The person who wants to be president has to go sit with his probation officer before he actually goes to the debate.
That's a good point. Joining us at the table, NBC News correspondent, the one, the only, Vaughn Hilliard. He is here with me at this table. I couldn't be happier. Claire and David are also back, but they are not here. Vaughn, what do you know about the? I love debate prep. Right. One of my favorite things. I love to know about what's going on the inside. I like to know about the mocks and the prep and all the stuff. What do you got?
Okay, well, how about this? You just outlined what Joe Biden's looks like.
Yeah.
And to our understanding, at least what the campaign is telling us, is that Donald Trump's looks very different. That he is doing no mock debate, that he has nobody standing in as Joe Biden. Of course, 4 years ago, he had his one-time ally, Chris Christie, doing that. Right. And this is at least publicly what they are saying. And they are building up that Donald Trump, the presumptive Republican nominee, is somebody that doesn't need to do this, that he doesn't need to go through a rehearsal. That is a campaign advisor saying that, because he is out there every day, either on the campaign trail or talking with advisors or talking to right-wing media, and that he does not need to rehearse his answers, in contrast to Joe Biden, the way that they're presenting it, and that he's going to be ready to go on Thursday. He left Bedminster, his club in New Jersey today, is going to a fundraiser in New Orleans. He's got nothing on the public calendar the next couple of days, of course, until Thursday night in Atlanta.
I can tell you, Vaughn, that having written some about debate preparations in previous presidential campaigns, I know exactly what's going on in the Joe Biden's world. Ron Klain, who is like the guru of Democratic debate prep, he's been doing it for years and years. There's nobody better, rigorous, attention to detail, methodical, running mock sessions, filming them, style coaches, all kinds of stuff going on. Donald Trump's people, according to you, say, hey, we don't need this because the guy's out there on the campaign trail. He's tuning up on the campaign trail. This is what he's doing on the campaign trail. Let's play that.
And I have the wounds all over my body. If I took this shirt off, you'd see a beautiful, beautiful person. But you'd see wounds all over me. I've taken a lot of wounds, I can tell you. More than I suspect any president ever. And my stupid people, when I wanted to refute it, they said, sir, don't dignify it with a refutal. Refutal or a rebuttal? What the hell word would that be? Refutal? What they'll say, he didn't know, refutal or refutal, but they don't know either. As you know, it's been reported that right now Crooked Joe's gone to a log cabin to study, prepare. No, he didn't. He's sleeping now. Because they want to get him good and strong, so a little before debate time he gets a shot in the and that's... They want to strengthen him up.
But first, just for anybody who does, the word refutal is actually a word. It's not, he didn't confuse it with rebuttal. That is actually a word. I looked it up this morning because I wasn't really sure, but it turns out it is a word. Claire, there's so much to say about that, in addition to the wholly objectionable beginning of it, which involved raising the specter of having to look at Donald Trump without his shirt on. I ask you, what do you expect in the context, given what we know about Trump, what we know about Biden, which is a lot at this point? What are you expecting to see on Thursday night? I don't think much of this preparation stuff. We know what we're going to get from Biden. I think at least some version of what he's going to try to do. Trump is totally unpredictable. But what are you looking for that night? What are you thinking? This is what we're going to see.
Well, I think what we're going to see is Joe Biden focusing on contrast, and I think we're going to see, as my friend Jim Palmieri said on our podcast, scrappy Joe from Scranton. He doesn't respect Donald Trump, and I don't think he's afraid to take some swings, and he needs to. What he says is less important than how he says it. He needs to pull up Trump short when Trump starts doing some of his most outrageous things, and we know he will. And listen, don't kid yourself. The Trump staff would love for their candidate to have enough discipline to actually prepare something. They would love it if he would actually sit down for 10 minutes and think about how to strategize this debate. But Trump's ego won't let him act like he needs help from anybody. So he's going to get up there and he's going to lie from the opening gun till the end. Jake Tapper and Dana Bash are going to have their hands full just trying to hold him to account in terms of fact checks. And I hope that Joe Biden just takes a moment to show people that he can be a street fighter. We need the State of the Union Joe Biden, not the dignified presidential Joe Biden. That's what we need on Thursday night.
David Jolly, I can tell you that at least back in 2016, when Trump tried to do debate preparation, most of those sessions out of Bedminster revolved around a lot of discussion about the hot dogs there and whether what kind of how many hot dogs you could have and what the condiments were and all that kind of stuff. I'll also note that I really want to ask you this question. Trump says Biden's going to be on drugs, and Ronnie Johnson, according to Trump, whose actual name is Ronnie Jackson. Trump, very mentally fit, forgot the man's name. Ronnie Jackson, doubled down on that conspiracy theory, says Joe Biden's going to be all cranked up on some kind of drugs. Would you want to play that game if you were Donald Trump? Would you want to go take a drug test alongside Joe Biden before the debate if you were Donald Trump? And what are beyond that question, what do you think is the strategic imperative in this debate for Joe Biden?
Yeah, no, everything with Donald Trump is projection, and certainly with Ronnie Jackson as well. They're not two people who should be suggesting drug testing for anybody. But let me start with Mitch Landrieu's comments, John, because this is serious. I was screaming into the wilderness a little bit when this happened, but I don't think the debate should happen Thursday night. I think the day that Donald Trump got convicted of felonies, the day he became an adjudicated criminal, the Biden camp should have pulled out and said it's beneath the presidency to debate a criminal. Now, it's too little too late for that. But part of what we are seeing is the normalizing. I mean, this is serious. It has serious consequences. This is the normalizing of Donald Trump, the criminal candidate, putting him on stage with Joe Biden. And I think it's a strategic decision that they made. Clearly, Mitch Landrieu now is asking people to remember he's a felon. But the way to do that is to say we're not debating a criminal. Now, for Thursday night itself, short of a medical episode, I don't think anything that happens Thursday night by either candidate would change the direction of this race. But I think it will affirm the contours of it. And what I mean by that is I think Joe Biden will overperform. As Claire said, like he did at the State of the Union, he's always underestimated and he always overperforms. And I think Donald Trump will be Donald Trump. And that helps Joe Biden because the contours of this race make it very hard for Donald Trump to build a majority coalition because the voters he needs to bring back to him are people who don't like him. Right? If you're not MAGA, you don't like Donald Trump. It's one of the reasons you went with Joe Biden and Democrats in 18 and 20 and 22. So if Thursday night is chaotic and chaos, I think that helps Joe Biden. I think it's a tragedy for the country to see, but I think Biden will perform well. Donald Trump will remind voters who he is, and that will hurt Joe Biden, or that will hurt Donald Trump.
We got to go to a break, but I want to ask you, there are a number of things to unpack in what David just said, but one of them is this question, which has been kicked around ever since Trump was convicted. The notion that he's a convicted felon now, but Biden people should walk away. Just talk about the political calculus there. I mean, I think there's like a moral, ethical, normative argument to be made for that, and yet I think if you talk to people in the Biden campaign, they would say this race is too close to walk away and give Donald Trump the argument he most desperately wants, which is the argument he's running on. Me strong, you weak, Joe Biden afraid to debate me. I think that's not an argument they wanted to cede to him.
And the interesting part, too, is over the 7-week trial, there were some conversations of the fact that the Biden campaign was silent about the testimony that was coming out from Nicolle and Stormy Daniels. It was a calculated decision by the Biden campaign outside of bringing Robert De Niro to Lower Manhattan. There was quietness, and they were going to wait for a verdict. And so that's exactly what happened. They waited for those 12 jurors to make their decision. They found Donald Trump guilty of all of those felonies, and they're allowing those jurors to make that determination. And clearly, Joe Biden intends to use it.
We're going to take a break. No one's going anywhere. We're going to get back. We're going to talk about expectation setting, have a little flashback to how bad it was in 2020 and these new rules that that have been adopted, and ask whether CNN is going to be able to actually enforce them and whether they will change things on Thursday. Right after this.
You were diagnosed with thyroid eye disease a long time ago. And year after year, you weathered the storm and just lived with the damage that was left behind. But even after all this time, your thyroid eye disease could still change. Restoration is still possible. Learn how you could give your eyes a fresh start at TEDhelp.com.
Imagine a future where plastic is not wasted, but instead remade over and over into the things that keep our food fresher, our families safer, and our planet cleaner. To help us get there, America's plastic makers are investing billions of dollars to create innovative products and new recycling technologies for sustainable change. Because when you push for smarter solutions, big things can happen.
This week on Chewy, shop all your pet's favorites and get a $30 e-gift card. Enjoy more savings on more food, more toys, and more treats. More of everything they love delivered right to your door, only with Chewy.
What the biggest companies deliver is an exceptional customer experience. What makes it possible is unmatched connectivity and 5G solutions from T-Mobile for Business. T-Mobile connects 100,000 Delta Airlines employees, powers Tractor Supply's stores nationwide with reliable 5G business internet, and partners with PGA of America on game-changing innovation. This is how business goes further with T-Mobile for Business.
Right now, pet dander, skin cells, and dirt are settling deep into your carpet fibers. Stanley Steamer removes the dirt you see and the dirt you don't. Your carpets aren't clean until they're Stanley Steamer clean.
Stanley Steamer gets your home cleaner.
All right, team, saddle up. I want Q1 full index reports by my desk by noon.
Are you getting any of this?
Yeah, Otter's got the meeting notes. I'll ask it for action items in the channel. And Maria already asked for a budget reminder. Smart.
Got it?
Got it, boss. Otter, you got this.
These bills are crazy.
She has no idea she's sitting on a gold mine.
Well, she doesn't know that if she owns a life insurance policy of $100,000 or more, she can sell all or part of it to Coventry for cash, even a term policy.
Even a term policy?
Even a term policy!
Find out if you're sitting on a gold mine. Call Coventry Direct today at 800-738-1300 or visit coventrydirect.com.
I need Q1 full index reports by my desk by noon, complete with comprehensive data analysis.
Are you getting any of this?
Charles.
Yeah, Otter's got the meeting notes. I'll ask it for action items in the channel. And Maria already asked for a budget reminder. Smart.
Mom by morning. Got it?
Got it, boss. Otter, you got this.
Welcome to the Waverhood.
The Wayfair vibe at our place is Western.
My thing, darling, shine.
Gardening.
Some of us go for the dramatic.
How didn't I know Wayfair had vanities and tile? How?
This? Yeah.
Do you have any ottomans without legs?
Sean, you'll flip for the food cart.
In the Waverhood, there's a place for all of us.
Wayfair, every style, every home.
The issue is the American people should speak. You should go out and vote. You're in voting now. Vote and let your senators know how strongly you feel. Vote now.
Are you gonna pack the
Make
court?
sure you, in fact, let people know
He doesn't want
you're a
to answer the
senator.
question.
I'm not going to answer the question
Why wouldn't you answer that
because
question?
the question
You want to put a lot
is
of
the
new
question
Supreme Court
is
justice,
the
radical
question-
left.
Will you
Who
shut
is
up,
on,
man?
Listen, who is on your list, Joe?
This
Who's
is
on your
so
list?
right.
Gentlemen, I think
This
we've
is
ended
so
this.
He's going to pack the
unprecedented.
court.
We have
We're not going to give a list.
We have ended this segment. We're going to move on to the second segment.
That was really a productive segment, wasn't it? Keep yapping, man.
Actually, politically, not totally unproductive for Joe Biden. That was probably one of the many moments that helped him win that debate going away in 2020. Claire, we have a different kind of debate set up here. There's a lot of things unprecedented about this debate, including the presence of a felon on stage. But these debate rules that both sides agreed to, we have a debate. It's going to be 90 minutes long, 2 commercial breaks, no studio audience. Microphones will be muted when it's not the candidate's turn. That will be run from the control room, I'm told, not by the moderators. No campaign staff interactions and breaks, closing statements. Biden's going to go first, and then Donald Trump, no opening statements. Tell me what you think of the efficacy or the likely efficacy. We're getting speculative here, but do you think that this is going to create a better experience for the American people and for, respectively, for the candidates because of these rules?
Yeah, I think it will probably help. By and large, because stop the audience reaction. I really think that what Joe Biden says is not as important as how he says it. And by the way, Trump has set up expectations for this in a way that really helped Biden. Trump has spent the last 6 months convincing America that Joe Biden can't walk or talk. He has spent the last 6 months convincing America that this is an addled brain. And so Joe Biden is going to show a command of the issues. He's going to show that he's not afraid of this guy. He's going to look strong. He's going to come after him just like, stop your yapping and shut up, man. Joe Biden is going to do that. And I honestly think it will be harder for Trump this time. Frankly, cutting off the microphones, you can argue that maybe it helps Biden to have the microphones keep going. But in this instance, and I just think it's really important for us to keep pointing out, John, and we got to point this out over and over again. Trump's lawyers helped pick the jury that convict him, and Trump agreed to these rules. Right. Trump agreed to these rules. So he cannot say this is a rigged deal. He agreed to it just like he helped pick the jury. So I think it's important that we keep reminding everybody of that, because he'll try after he loses this debate to say, oh, it was rigged against me, because, he can't ever lose anything. He has to make up stuff. Sorry. Oh,
there we go. Who had it on the bingo card that it would be clear, not me, who would drop a profanity on air here? David Jolly, I ask you, the expectation setting that Claire just talked about is pretty incredible. Now, I did an interview for my podcast with Jen O'Malley Dillon, the chair of the Biden campaign, in which she was emphatic and unwavering about not only about the campaign's likely outcome, about the fact they were going to win this race. Joe Biden is going to win this race. Jen O'Malley Dillon very confident, but she did not. She made some comments about Trump. I'll play one of them in a second, but she made some comments about Trump, but not trying to say, well, he's obviously addled and he won't be able to get through a complete sentence. And that is, of course, what Republicans have done. I ask you, as someone who understands Republicans to some extent, did they not learn anything from the State of the Union, where they basically said, oh, this man will not be able to stand up for an hour up there, and he's going to end up with dribble on his shirt. He's not going to be able to complete an English language sentence. They set the bar so low, Biden soared over it. But they not learned it. That's not that long ago, and they got their heads handed to them on the expectations game. Why are they doing this?
Yeah, well, first of all, Donald Trump's not Rick Scott. I mean, it is hard to play rope-a-dope with Donald Trump because he won't take a breath. He won't shut up, kind of. So you need those moments like you saw from Joe Biden 4 years ago where he says, shut up, man. But he will overperform. Joe Biden does. He always does in every event. It's unlike the State of the Union. He doesn't control the microphones and control the entire floor. But Joe Biden's going to do just fine, and it will surprise Republicans. They'll say, oh, we always expected him to do fine. Here, what I'm looking for is this. If you really want to help shape this race, the most efficient use of time, I believe, for Joe Biden is to talk about reproductive freedom. Talk about it as much as you can and as much as you want, because the disparity with American voters looking at Democrats and Republicans is the largest. And I expect we will hear Donald Trump's most efficient argument be on immigration. He'll pull a Katie Britt. He'll throw in the xenophobia and crime and conflate it to black and brown people and try to scare the country. That's baked in. The other thing I would like to see from Joe Biden, and I don't think we've had this national conversation and he can lead it. The economy is doing very well. It's morning in America again. The stock market's at an all-time high. Housing's at home ownership's at an all-time high. Access to health care and education. More people will go to work tomorrow than ever before. But we're measuring the economy by inflation. Now, he's got a good story to tell on inflation. It's coming down. It's under control, et cetera, et cetera. But inflation must not be the #1 economic metric that the American people use to look at the economy going into November. Joe Biden's economy is a good one. Sure, make the inflation argument, but focus America's attention on the economic growth that's occurring right now in their neighborhood and in their town. Joe Biden's going to have a very good night focused on that.
All right, we're going to take another break. We're going to come back. Claire is going to have her camera and her sound all teed up, wired up, ready to go. Vaughn's still here. and so is David. I'm going to play a little bit of that sound from that interview I did with Jen O'Malley-Dillon after this break.
Thursday, the first presidential debate, hosted by CNN. Rachel Maddow and team will preview the rematch. Then stay tuned for the full debate, followed by insights and perspective. Special coverage and analysis begins Thursday at 7 on MSNBC.
Affirmative action is a right that we have.
There has to be something against Asian Americans specifically.
Affirmative action is under attack!
You cannot remedy discrimination and preferences with new discrimination.
When I was diagnosed with HIV, I didn't know who I would be.
But here I am, being me.
Keep being you and ask your healthcare provider about the #1 prescribed HIV treatment, Biktarvy.
Biktarvy is a complete one-pill, once-a-day treatment used for HIV in many people, whether you're 18 or 80. With one small pill, Biktarvy fights HIV to help you get to undetectable and stay there, whether you're just starting or replacing your current treatment. Research shows that taking HIV treatment as prescribed and getting to and staying undetectable prevents transmitting HIV through sex. Serious side effects can occur, including kidney problems and kidney failure. Rare, life-threatening side effects include a buildup of lactic acid and liver problems. Do not take Biktarvy if you take dofetilide or rifampin. Tell your healthcare provider about all the medicines and supplements you take if you are pregnant or breastfeeding, or if you have kidney or liver problems, including hepatitis. If you have hepatitis B, do not stop taking Biktarvy without talking to your healthcare provider. Common side effects are diarrhea, nausea, and headache.
No matter where life takes you, Biktarvy can go with you. Talk to your healthcare provider today.
Start your day with Nature Made, the #1 pharmacist-recommended vitamin and supplement brand.
I have moderate to severe Crohn's disease. Now there's Skyrizi.
Things are looking up. I've got symptom relief. Control of my Crohn's means everything to me. Control is everything to me.
Feel significant symptom relief at 4 weeks with Skyrizi, including less abdominal pain and fewer bowel movements. Skyrizi is the first IL-23 inhibitor that can deliver remission and visibly improve damage of the intestinal lining. And Skyrizi is proven to help deliver long-lasting remission at 1 year.
Serious allergic reactions and an increased risk of infections or a lower ability to fight them may occur. Tell your doctor if you have an infection or symptoms, had a vaccine or plan to. Liver problems may occur in Crohn's disease.
Now's the time to ask your gastroenterologist how you can take control of your Crohn's with Skyrizi.
Control is everything to me.
Learn how AbbVie could help you save.
Did you know GoodRx can help you get a better price on your family's prescriptions?
I just opened the app, type in the name of our meds, that's it. Savings on my husband's blood pressure refills and savings on my daughter's allergy pills.
Prescription savings for the whole family. Another good reason to check GoodRx.
An official message from Medicare about fraud.
Free knee brace from my Medicare number.
Medicare fraud can happen through text, call, or email.
Oh, they try next.
Ooh. Hello?
I'm calling about your Medicare.
I don't give out my information.
Need to confirm my Medicare number?
Nope. Delete. Don't give your Medicare number to someone you don't know. Regularly check your Medicare claims to make sure they are right. Learn more at medicare.gov/fraud.
Paid for by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services.
I think every day he has an opportunity to show the American people, you know, the power of his vision and his ideas. Yes, of course, this matters for the two of them standing side by side. And it's an opportunity not just for the American people to see Joe Biden in all the things that we see every day, but also to see Donald Trump. And I think, and I know you've talked about this on some of your podcasts, I think part of what has happened in this country is that Donald Trump hasn't had to answer for himself because people are not seeing him in what he's saying. People are not seeing him day in and day out with the things that he says. That is a big part of why this really does matter. Is it the be-all and the end-all of the whole thing? Of course not. Right. It is a moment in time that will have impact.
We're back with Vaughn and Claire and David. And Vaughn, I want to ask you, Jen O'Malley-Dillon came up here to New York and did made a state visit basically last week and did a bunch of meetings with people off the record and talked to them about came on my show, which was really nice. And she answered a lot of questions. Her point here is basically they're frustrated with media coverage. part of the reason they play so much Trump in their channels is that they think that, like, the press goes out to a Trump event and they write about the most trivial things on the front page of a newspaper in Nevada. Right. He goes to Las Vegas and calls January 6th insurrectionists warriors and says they were set up, and people talk about, like, his immigration policy, and they're like, that should lead, and I have sympathy for that. Yeah. Do you think that is a case that Joe Biden can effectively prosecute when we have read today in the New York Times that the CNN's basically, David Chalian, the political director there, basically came out today and said for the first time, I think, moderators aren't going to fact check in real time. That's going to be up to Joe Biden. So that's a challenge, right? When someone lies as much as Trump, and it gets to this thing that Jen's talking about in that clip.
Right. And especially it's difficult over the last years that Donald Trump has really run to the right-wing outlets that are largely become propaganda outlets for him. Right. And so there has been very few opportunities to actually fact check him by mainstream TV media. Right. He did the CNN town hall with Caitlin Collins. He did the Meet the Press interview with Kristen Welker. Let's be very clear. Those two interviews are the only mainstream interviews that he has done since January 6th. Yeah. Only two of them in almost 4 years. And so this is going to be the difficulty for Donald Trump, is that a lot of what the former president has, says from the campaign stage or to those right-wing outlets are just simply not true. I mean, the baseline is that the 2020 election was stolen. There are conspiracy theories, though, that stem from that are going to be very difficult for, I think, the current president to make a calculation in this debate. Do you try to explain to the American public why some of the statements that are coming out of Donald Trump's mouth are not real? Or do you try to bypass that, knowing that his microphone is off, and trying to instead put forward the vision that you want? Because let's be frank, the last couple of years, there was many that wanted Donald Trump to go away, including some Biden allies that did not want the press talking about the things that Donald Trump was saying because they didn't think he was ever going to run for president again. Now is a different point in time. We're only 4 months out, and clearly they have made the calculation that they want the American public to hear as much Donald Trump as they can because they believe it's detrimental to him.
Claire, I want to ask you about this because it's a topic that Nicolle and I have talked about on air here a few times, and I know it's something that she thinks about. It's this thing I just mentioned, Devon. I'm going to read this thing from the New York Times because it's a real thing here. You've got this. They're not going to cut off Trump's microphone when it's not his turn to speak. We know when he speaks, he's going to lie because that's all he normally does. He lies about almost everything. He lies about, every word in the English language, including and, of, and but, and the, like all of them, right? But the New York Times says in the debate, the role of the moderator is often in dispute. And David Chalian, CNN's political director, said on Thursday that Thursday's live debate is, quote, not the ideal arena for live fact-checking. Instead, Miss Bash, Dana Bash, and Mr. Tapper, Jake Tapper, would focus on, quote, facilitating the debate between these candidates, not being a participant in that debate, he said, noting that CNN analysts would assess the veracity of the candidates' comments immediately after the telecast. Now, this goes back to the controversy about Candy Crowley back in 2012 when she live fact-checked Mitt Romney in the presidential debate against Barack Obama. There's still conservatives who are mad about that. CNN, you got to stay away from that. But that now puts the onus, if there's going to be fact-checking in real time, on Joe Biden. And so I ask you, if you were counseling Joe Biden in debate prep, how much of that do you want to have him do? Any? A little? A lot?
I think it's going to depend a lot on Joe Biden's judgment at the time. I think he should fact check some of the most outlandish stuff, and he can do that by just saying, I think the vast majority of Americans know that that's just him lying again. He lies a lot. He's comfortable lying. I'm not comfortable lying. And I really question how Jake Tapper and Dana Bash are going to get through this. I mean, if they ask Trump a question and he answers with a really blatant lie, what are they just supposed to smile and nod their head? I don't. These are real journalists. I'm not saying they should be fact checking him, but allowing him to spin tales that are fanciful. It'll be really interesting to see how this works, because I know it's going to put their teeth on edge when they ask him a question and he just blatantly lies, and they've got to wait for, Joe Biden to say something about it. I don't think Joe Biden should spend the entire debate calling him a liar, but he should strategically at an important moment say that, this guy is very comfortable lying. Don't ever forget how comfortable he is lying.
Yeah, I would suggest that one of those moments might be if Donald Trump decides to call January 6th insurrectionists warriors, heroes, patriots, martyrs, whatever, and talk about how they were set up by federal law enforcement. Claire McCaskill, thank you for doing this. Vaughn Hilliard, always a pleasure. And David Jolly, You're a great American. Thank you all for spending this time with us. Up next, as promised earlier in the show, Katie Phang, she has emerged. She is free, liberated from the courtroom in Fort Pierce, Florida. How today's gag order hearing in the Mar-a-Lago classified documents case went down in Eileen Cannon's courtroom. We'll get to that coming up.
Fruit and vegetable ingredients have never been more convenient.
It's easy for me to recommend Balance of Nature. It's so simple. It's amazing getting the fruits and vegetables ingredients in 3 red and 3 green capsules.
I take Balance of Nature. I think it's a good product. It's convenient. It's a way to start off with a plus. I can do little capsules in the morning and I'm off to work, you know.
I would recommend Balance of Nature. It's so easy to do every day. I really am happy that I came across it. I feel great, and who doesn't want to feel great?
Splash into your summer with Balance of Nature summer savings. Go to balanceofnature.com and sign up as a new preferred customer to get 50% off your first set. Go to balanceofnature.com or call 1-800-246-8751 and get this limited time offer by using discount code LOVE.
How many times have you tried to clean a stubborn mess with no success? What you need is the all-new waterproof Horsepower, the new cordless and rechargeable power scrubber that cleans faster and easier, guaranteed. Watch, baked on oven grease is no match. It blasts away dirt and grime in no time. The power comes from our rotating brushes, spinning up to 350 RPM. The incredible torque fights calcium, mildew, mold, and more. Forget harsh chemicals. With just water, Horsepower can clean bathroom tiles and tubs back to their original shine. Take it in the kitchen, where it busts through caked-on crud, or outside and tackle tough tasks with ease. How strong is Horsepower? We took this distressed antique and restored it to like new. Amazing! Get
motion. Why? Because she was challenging him, as in David Harbaugh, on behalf of the special counsel's office, as to whether or not things like redactions that have already been done in public filings, protecting the names of witnesses, including law enforcement, are sufficient. She indicated that how far back in time do we need to go to be able to see whether or not there have been threats that have been made to law enforcement? Now, special counsel's office making it clear, quote, these statements are required to be prohibited by Trump so they can prevent significant, imminent, and foreseeable danger to law enforcement agents that are participating in the investigation and prosecution of this case. But Todd Blanche, on behalf of Trump, getting up and saying, look, Judge, you're basically trying to infringe upon Donald Trump's right to have protected political speech. There's no connection between the examples that have been brought by special counsel in this case and Donald Trump. There's an ability for him as a political candidate to be able to make statements. And frankly, the exhibits that the government had presented, Judge Cannon indicated, like she was agreeing with Todd Blanche, that it just didn't seem to rise to the level of a bond modification. And so at this time, a lot of us believing that it's going to be not good for the government.
Katie, do you have any idea when she's going to actually rule in this case? Knowing her, I'm just hoping for like sometime this century.
Not anytime soon. She's allowing them to supplement in the next couple of days, maybe in the next month, I would say.
Yeah, the wheels of justice turning very, very slowly. Katie Phang, thank you for your reporting. When we come back, 2 years since the United States Supreme Court struck down a woman's right to choose in the United States of America, how that issue is playing and is shaping up to play in this election year. More Deadline White House coming up.
Power E-Trade's award-winning trading app makes trading easier.
With its customizable options chain, easy-to-use tools, and paper trading to help sharpen your skills, you can stay on top of the market from wherever you are. E-Trade from Morgan Stanley. Power E-Trade's easy-to-use tools make complex trading less complicated. Custom scans help you find new trading opportunities, while an earnings tool helps you plan your trades and stay on top of the market. E-Trade from Morgan Stanley.
You know, Priceline helps families save up to 60% on family-friendly hotels.
So many great trips, we might just leave here with another vacation baby.
Gross.
Oh, take it easy, Paris. And you too, Fort Lauderdale.
Lisa was in Toledo.
Go to your happy price, Priceline.
To me, Harlem is home. But home is also your body.
Last one, everyone.
I asked myself, why doesn't Pilates exist in Harlem? So I started my own studio. Getting a brick and mortar in New York is not easy. Chase Inc. has supported us from Studio 1 to Studio 3. When you start small, you need some big help, and Chase Inc. was that for me.
Earn up to 5% cash back on business essentials with the Chase Inc. Business Cash Card from Chase for Business. Make more of what's yours.
Every time I needed a new phone, I had to switch carriers.
I told him, at Verizon, everyone can get that iPhone 15 on them.
Now that I got a huge storage and battery upgrade, I'm officially done switching.
New and existing customers get iPhone 15 on us when they trade in any iPhone. Verizon.
Hi, I'm Jay Jackson. For almost 20 years, Abacus Life has been purchasing life insurance policies from seniors. And in just seconds, you can use the free calculator at abacuspays.com to learn what your policy might be worth.
For many of my clients, selling their life insurance to Abacus was right for them and their estate plan.
Don't sell or lapse your policy without going to abacuspays.com first. There are no fees and no obligations. Get the real value from your life insurance when you need it with Abacus.
We've always loved taking care of our home, but last year, Grandpa here broke his arm. We realized some home maintenance jobs aren't worth the risk.
That's when we call Leaf Filter to protect our gutters.
Leaf Filter's patented filter technology keeps debris out of your gutters for good.
They gave us a free inspection, and we had the system installed that week.
My only regret is not calling him sooner.
Now we can focus on what we really enjoy.
Join millions of satisfied homeowners. Call 833-LEAF-FILTER today or visit leaffilter.com.
Why choose a Sleep Number smart bed?
Can it keep me warm when I'm cold?
Wait, no, I'm always hot.
Sleep Number does that. Shop our lowest prices of the season with no interest until 2027. Sleep Number smart bed starting at $9.99. Learn more at sleepnumber.com.
Getting it back to the states puts the question where it belongs with the vote of the people, and over time, it will all work out. It's working out right now, but it's all going to work out, and it's where everybody wanted it, including the legal scholars, but it's where everybody wanted it to be.
Hello again, everyone, and welcome to the 5 o'clock hour here in Gotham City. I'm John Heilman, in for Nicolle Wallace. Exactly 2 years ago today, the U.S. Supreme Court, thanks in large part to Donald Trump stacking it with conservative justices, took away a woman's federal right to an abortion, a right they'd had for nearly half a century. When the Supreme Court overturned Roe v. Wade, a cascade of laws around the country banning or limiting abortion came down. Some states enacting full bans, others banning abortions as early into pregnancy as 6 weeks, a time when many women do not yet know whether they are pregnant. So very contrary to what the disgraced ex-president said this weekend. The consequences of this decision are